Are you very hungry though?
Do you not want to eat your shoe?
Friends are looking tasty though.
Surely they are edible.
No.
Monster, cooking the monster.
Cooking the Monster is proudly presented by Herbert, Matly, and Kistrix.
Monster, cooking the monster tonight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another fine episode of Cooking the Monster. And we start our series today on player characters and player character races by exploring the humble dwarf.
Short of stature, but packed full of flavour, dwarves forged by the god Moradin from aspects of metal in his celestial forge, really.
A lot of people, they discredit dwarves. Dragons, they think they're greasy, but like a lot of fine perfumes and the ingredients that go into them, I believe that dwarves have a lot of flavor really drenched into the bone and muscle tissue. It's just a strong and possibly acquired taste.
You're looking for a much heavier meat, a denser meat than a lot of other meats. A lot of flavour will be coming from, as is usual, what they've been eating. So different subtypes of different dwarves will have obviously different...
Well, Duergar will be eating a lot more funguses. Your standard mountain dwarves, even standard underground mountain dwarves will probably eat a lot more fungus because it's more readily available. Dwarves that are integrated into sort of land-based human societies or remnants from some of the greater, older dwarven empires will be feeding on grain and
legumes, other sort of staple crops.
I think one of the main things you could consider to be a consistent aspect of dwarven diets is meat, though, because they are omnivorous. Like all of those standard humanoid races, for the most part, they're omnivorous, and they will supplement a lot of the basic protein needs in their diet with meat, but it will always be mixed up with other vegetable or fungal components.
Absolutely. There is one thing to notice, and that is that dwarves have a much greater resistance to poison than a great many other races. So you will find that firstly, if you're eating dwarven cuisine, what might be a pleasant amount of spice for them might be uncomfortable for you. And secondly, if you are in some unawful situation where you're forced to eat a dwarf...
Yes, terrible.
Terrible. They may have a higher level of toxin in their body that they're perfectly okay with, but that you consuming it would find at least uncomfortable.
Now, normally, the concentration of these poisons would be located around organs that are inherent to the dwarf that would be processing them. So your livers, kidneys, things like that. So I would be very careful about approaching those organs when it comes to adding them to, say, haggis or something like that. You might want to avoid those things, unless you, of course, are feeding robust races who can deal with a higher content of poison in their diet. Of course, if you know what the dwarves have been eating, and you know what they've been eating on a regular basis, then you're definitely much safer. And if they're not consuming poisons outright, like living on cave spiders or things like that, then there's still a risk that the liver could taste quite bitter for the high amounts of alcohol dwarves are considered to consume. Of course, the good thing about that is that their high consumption of alcohol will keep down other nasties like parasites and microbials that will live in their gut.
That's very true. And I think because they're of shorter stature as well, bodies that develop with shorter stature and a lot stronger actually really have very dense bones and very strong bones. So you might be actually getting a lot of marrow out of this as well.
Now, I have a question for, well, both of you, really, and the audience, if you'd like to answer. There are a lot of stereotypes going around of dwarves being very greasy creatures, as in, like, various dragons. There are first-hand accounts in literature about dragons and goblins complaining about the flavor of dwarf flesh, and it's just greasiness and gristliness. Well, what do you guys think about that, and possibly how to treat it?
Well, I think if they're going to be having that really high meat diet, they probably are going to be a bit greasier. They're going to have really high amounts of like omega-6s and fatty acids within the meat compared to some other leaner varieties.
Now, do you think that would lead to more of a pork belly effect on some of the outer parts of the carcass?
Well, definitely, I think if the dwarf was larger bodied as well and was carrying a bit more weight, we could do a bit of a pork belly there. But I've just been dreaming the whole time of some like fried like dwarf drumsticks or something, like
Oh
a
my
good piece
goodness.
of like thigh and calf or something. Just
Well,
deep
it's
fry.
true
Real
because
greasy.
I guess like a large pig, you really have that in a shorter statured body. You really have that acceleration, like a ham hank, like really just hanging off there, just going from a narrow foot to a larger thigh.
So you'd be thinking more of like a slow roast or something to sort of draw the flavor out, as opposed to just like a frying of a meat.
Look, to be honest, I'd be looking to add some other herbs or perhaps even something that will complement the really strong flavor of the dwarf, or something that will, like you say, draw out the flavor slowly and maybe not let it seep so much. So if I was doing something slow cooked, I'd probably like to add a lot of garlic or other strong flavors that would balance out that.
Paprika or even something perhaps to cut the fatty taste, adding
Yep, a curry would be great.
yeah.
Yep.
Just to really flesh
Spices.
it out. Yeah, some kind of tikka masala sort
Yeah,
of.
and I think you can get away with making it quite hot as well.
Yeah, for sure. And again, those flavors are really great at balancing out other strong flavors, and you'd eat them with like if you wanted to go for like a duragar or an underground dwarf themed meal, you'd serve them with some fresh washed field mushrooms to
Yeah.
really just soak in and balance out the flavor.
The other sort of mushroom that I thought would have been good here is the lion's mane mushroom, because it looks like a big beard, and I think it's just kind of, it's very dwarven.
The dwarven theme.
Yeah.
Do you
It's
think
very-
as a
it's on
serving
theme.
option you could actually encompass parts of the dwarven beard if you had like a
I think we
multi-dwarf
could.
spread?
Yeah, we could. We could even like make like a roast up, and then we could form the lion's mane mushroom into the shape of a beard and present it like a face almost. That could be quite impressive.
It would be very impressive. Look, I've seen some incredible camel roasts that come out of the Middle East where they slow cook a large camel that's been broken down into hunks. The whole thing's been marinated in strong spices, and they even add various eggs and other things into the mix and even mix it up with a whole lot of rice before they put it into the oven. So it's possible to like mix it up with a whole lot of mushrooms, possibly some grains, really go all the way down the dwarven route and soak it in like a beer batter or something
Yeah,
like that.
and then you could add some like barley grains back in as well.
Yeah,
That'd be
absolutely.
really hearty.
So that's been our coverage of the Humble Dwarf and our first intrepid journey into the player character races. We're looking to cover much more in the coming episodes, but we'd like to know what you have to say about how you'd prepare your dwarf, what flavors you'd use, and what recipes you might want to suggest. If you'd just like to add your comments in the column below, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on Cooking the Monster.
Monster, cooking the monster tonight.